District Court, Southern District of New York, United States versus Sean Combs, defendant. Pursuant to Rule 1.3I of the local rules of the United States courts for the Southern and Eastern Districts of New York, Brian Steele hereby moves this court for an order for admission to practice pro hoc vice to appear as counsel for Sean Combs, defendant in the above captioned action. I am a member in good standing of the bar of the state of Georgia, and there are no pending disciplinary proceedings against me in any state or federal court. See attached certificate of good standing, Exhibit A. I have never been convicted of a felony. I have never been disbarred or denied admission or readmission by any court. I have been administratively suspended, then reinstated, and censored, but then vindicated by courts, and provide the facts and circumstances surrounding those instances in the attached affidavit pursuant to Local Rule 1.3, Exhibit B, dated April 15, 2025. Respectfully submitted, Brian Steele, the Steele Law Firm, PC, 1800 Peachtree. Before we go any further, I want y'all to understand the phrase, the word pro hoc vice, because it pops up a couple of times. And I know y'all don't want to sit here and be like, well, what does it even mean? And we'll get more further into it. Then we'll drop the paperwork and then we'll get into the reaction. Sounds good? All right, let's go. So I want to give y'all what pro hoc vice means. I heard the lady on Breakfast Club say it like a month ago or something like that, and she said pro hoc vice. Nah, darling, it's pro hoc vice is a Latin phrase meaning for this occasion. In legal terms, it refers to the temporary admission of an attorney from another jurisdiction to practice law in a specific case before a court where they are not formally licensed. Basically, Georgia to New York. He's asking to be let on. You hear what I'm saying? So here's a more detailed explanation. Temporary admission. An attorney who is not licensed in a particular jurisdiction can still appear in that court for a specific case by being admitted pro hoc vice for this case only. The admission is limited to the specific case for which the motion is made and does not grant the attorney the right to practice in that jurisdiction generally. Common practice. Pro hoc vice admission is a common practice, particularly in cases involving complex legal issues or when a client wishes to be represented by their regular counsel, even if that attorney is not licensed in the jurisdiction where the case is pending. Requirements vary. The specific requirements and procedures for pro hoc vice admission can vary depending on the jurisdiction, but generally including filing a motion, paying a fee, and sometimes requiring the assistance of a local attorney. Example, a New York-based lawyer might be admitted pro hoc vice to represent a client in a case in California, allowing them to appear in court in that state for that specific case, according to the legal dictionary. Sounds good? All right. Now, let's go ahead and find out how often New York allows pro hoc vice. So, you know what? I just decided let me go negative. And I know y'all don't really want to hear me say it that way, but I'm going to do it anyways. Let's go negative. In New York, pro hoc vice admission, while typically granted, is a privilege and not a right, meaning a court can deny it in various reasons. While the specific grounds for denial can vary, it's less common to outright deny an application with prejudice. Instead, denials often involve specific conditions or limitations. Here's a more detailed look. Pro hoc vice in New York. Pro hoc vice means for this time only and allows lawyers admitted in other jurisdictions to appear in New York cases, but only for that specific matter. Denial is discretionary. That's insane, but whatever. New York courts have the discretion to grant or deny pro hoc vice admission. Unusual to deny with prejudice. While denials are possible, they are not commonly made with prejudice, which would permanently bar the applicant from seeking future pro hoc vice admission in that court. Conditions and limitations. Instead of outright denial, New York courts might impose conditions such as requiring the applicant to work with a local counsel or limiting their participation to specific aspects of the case. Factors for denial. While there isn't a comprehensive list, factors that might lead to a denial could include concerns about the applicant's standing in their home jurisdiction, lack of familiarity with New York law or court procedures, or a history of disciplinary issues. Need for good standing. An applicant typically needs to demonstrate that they are in good standing with the bar in their home jurisdiction and provide a certificate of good standing. So that's what that is. So now that you have that understanding, we can actually proceed with what Brian Steele uses to try to sway the court, if we will. of New York. Let's go. This is the part I don't like, right? And it just is what it is. Just a little quick brief into it. On June 10th, 2024, I was held in contempt by a Superior Court judge in Fulton County, Georgia, in the state of Georgia versus Jeffrey Williams, case number 22 SC 183572, when the judge wrongfully ordered that I reveal privileged information. Diddy's new lawyer, Brian Steele. Let's dig deep. United States District Court, Southern District of New York, United States versus Sean Combs. Motion for admission, pro hac vice, sworn statement of Brian Steele. Comes now. Brian Steele, applicant for admission to practice pro hac vice and pursuant to LR 1.3, makes the following sworn statement. Since November of 1991, I have been licensed to practice law in the state of Georgia, and I am a member in good standing of the bar of the highest court of the state of Georgia. A certificate of good standing issued within the past 30 days by the Supreme Court of Georgia is attached hereto as Exhibit A. I have never been convicted of a felony. I have never been disbarred or denied admission or readmission by any court. However, subject to that statement, I disclose the information below. Since 1991, I have practiced law in the state of Georgia. From 1990 to 1991, I worked in the state of New York, where I had become a member of the New York Bar in 1990. In 2005, I learned that I had been administratively suspended from the New York State Bar for non-payment of fees in 1999. I had not been aware of my obligations to pay annual fees for a license that I was not maintaining as active. I promptly paid all outstanding fees and was reinstated in June 2005, at which time I resigned as a member of the New York Bar. On November 13, 2021, I was held in civil contempt for refusing to proceed to trial after a trial court in State versus Janice Carlisle, Gwinnett County Superior Court, indictment number 97B0731-1. Denied my client's plea of former jeopardy, and I properly filed a notice of appeal. The Court of Appeals of Georgia granted an emergency stay of the trial, finding that the trial court had been divested of jurisdiction and that I was wrongfully held in contempt. Shout out Brian Steele, bro. Over there putting BTA. On June 10, 2024, I was held in contempt by a Superior Court judge in Fulton County, Georgia, in the state of Georgia versus Jeffrey Williams, case number 22 SC 183572, when the judge wrongfully ordered that I reveal privileged information. The misdemeanor contempt conviction was reversed by unanimous Superior Court of Georgia on October 22, 2025, which actually is 2024. Brian, come on, man. We can't be making these type of mistakes when you're going for the big league, brother. But it is what it is. Reversed by a unanimous Superior Court of Georgia on October 22nd, 2024. Case number S24A1-245. There are no disciplinary proceedings presently pending against me, and I have never been the subject of disciplinary proceedings. By applying for admission to practice before this court for purposes of representing Mr. Combs, I understand that I am deemed to have conferred disciplinary jurisdiction upon this court for any alleged misconduct arising in the course of or in preparation for the proceeding. This 11th day of April 2025. Here you go right here. He already has his notary already ready. Brian Steele. Let's get to the content, shall we? All right. So now that we laid out if he would be dropped or not dropped, I don't think they drop him. I think they essentially bring him on. And it's kind of interesting to see where every time Brian Steele has been, I don't want to say questioned, but essentially challenged on the legitimacy of his claim, he's come out on top 3 times. That's pretty powerful and pretty important, because when you're doing a job as a lawyer, you have to be squeaky clean. And those who aren't typically aren't allowed to practice anywhere else. And Brian Steele actually being from New York, because the whole time I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, bruh, you from there. You ain't get no bar there. But, you know, as some do, some understand, living in the South, opposed to living in crowded cities like a LA, like a New York, hell, even in Miami. Not really Miami. Miami's just more glitz and glamps. Now let me add Miami. Chicago, Seattle. Those 4 cities, once you start to leave those cities and start to explore down south, you kind of like it a little bit better. From being, I'm going on a whole nother diatribe. Let's get back to the facts. So, will he be granted it? I believe so. But what does this mean for Diddy is the number one question that I'm pretty sure you're wondering. Well, one thing that we've seen a rise of hip hop lawyers start to take off. Number one being Drew Fillon. So remember when y'all seen Drew Fillon in the courtroom for NBA YoungBoy, right? All right. He was there practicing in Utah for what? Pro Hoc Vice. And I'm pretty sure he got that 18-month extension because YoungBoy, either way it goes, there's that. Will he be accepted? I believe so. But what does he add? And that is the number one question that everybody is posing, from Facebook to Twitter to YouTube to Instagram to whatever else y'all use, TikTok. What does it mean? Does it mean well for Diddy? Did Brian Steele come in too late? What's Brian Steele's motivation? No, he didn't come in too late. Secondly, he's really there as co-counsel. It's not like he's the head guy. That's what he's there for. He's there because he's a stiffler. And if he's able to cross, he's not going to cross Cassidy, of course. They've essentially been his lawyers, his head lawyers have been in this way too long to just get arranged to Brian Steele. Brian Steele is essentially the sixth man on the bench who gonna come off and give you basically 30. If y'all can recall a Sean Livingston when he used to jump off, when you can recall a Andrew Iguodala for the Warriors when he used to jump off. So that's what he is. He's the sixth man off the bench that's supposed to light it up because he already has, quote unquote, durability. And paying attention to this stuff with a long trial, I think the Diddy trial probably going to go about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. If that's the case, it's going to be interesting because the feds have not unsealed what they need to unseal just yet. They're waiting to the last minute to drop everything that they're going to drop. They need that. It's like reinforcement from somebody dropping some water and you already holding it up. But if you found somebody with some muscles, shoot. Hey, I only did that because I just got out the gym. I'm feeling good. But either way it go, you have that added with Brian Steele coming in as reinforcement. And here's the biggest thing. He's fresh off of a Rico. It's not like the Rico was literally last year, April, when they got off of it. They got off of it basically on Halloween. So, Brian Steele is still fresh. Y'all recall when you look at some of these things, like when y'all helping y'all children with math and stuff like that, and you're like, dang, bro, if I just had gotten out of high school or just got out of that grade, I would be way sharper. Man, I remember this. No, Brian Steele works because Brian Steele is still in that mindset of that courtroom where he was, and he was putting belt to ass. Now, the unfortunate part is Keith Adams ain't coming. That's my only thing. And y'all know, man, I'm a homer for Keith Adams, bro. Big Keith Adams in the building. But Brian Steele is there for his expertise. Now, here's the biggest thing. And I know a lot of y'all like, why would Brian Steele do this? Because if he takes an L, will we look at him different? No. If Brian Steele took an L and he was the first person contacted, the first person to do it all, then yeah, we would consider it an L. But we would think to ourselves, man, Diddy's so damn evil, bruh. Brian Steele was basically trying to be a miracle worker. They've already castigated Diddy as wrong and being foul and all of these things to the point where I don't know if we've actually given this man a fair shot or not. That's just me saying from what I'm seeing on the media. But also, Brian Steele wants to be the number one lawyer. Let's understand this. Brian Steele has that fire in his stomach. Got that big fire in his stomach that he knows as well as I do. He pulls this off, he climbs the rank as the number one. Because you got to remember, the best lawyer that we see that's handling stuff is Drew Fillon. See, nobody's going to speak the silent part out loud, but I will. Drew Fillon is number one. It used to be Drew Fillon and Tony Busby, but Tony Busby turned into an ambulance chaser, and Tony Busby got a stench to him that's never going to come off because he was in the wrong, and he thought he was going to be able to do exactly what they accused him of. It's like the old saying, live long enough as the hero and you see yourself becoming the villain. And that's what actually happened to him, in my opinion, from how everything has been pushed out about him. But Brian Steele is in this not because of the money. The money's good, I'm fairly certain, but it's not because of the money. It's because of the name. It's because of the task. And it's literally because of his ego, and not in a negative way. You had to have a bit of ego, a bit of gravitas, a bit of, man, I know what I'm doing when I walk in here. It's not wrong to have an ego. But maybe I got it all wrong. Maybe y'all feel differently. Maybe y'all feel this is a cash grab. Maybe y'all think that, man, Brian Steele is only taking advantage of, quote unquote, black people in their situations. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. But let me know your opinion. What is the visionaries feeling on this? Because I'll be curious to respond in the comments with all y'all and everything. And apparently I riled up some people because of my take on TK. If you're unfamiliar with it, go ahead and click this right here, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.
Hey, yo, you. Can you subscribe and turn on that bell, too? Because when you do, you're helping unbiased, independent news.